All right. Good morning, folks. So this is the program manager training. If you can just remain muted unless you have a question, in which case feel free to unmute yourself or to use the chat function. Either way works. So what we're going to cover in program management today is assigning staff to clients and that all happens within programs. And then review reports for client case notes and service notes, time and effort recorded by staff, and program management reports. So those are kind of the three different types of reports we're going to talk about today. So starting with navigating, to log in, you can always use the client search to get to the client that you're trying to work with. And the caseload are clients that are assigned to you. And if you assign clients to other case managers, when they open that caseload box, they will see those clients. All of the information is going to be in the about programs take place within the program. So the notes, services, assessments, and files that we'll be talking about today, all of those should be generally recorded within the program. All of the services, assessments, and notes should be recorded within the program in order for everything to get tracked in the way that's easiest to manage for everybody. And that way that it's happening in the correct place within the correct program. And for the most part, the services and notes will be are private. There's only you can't see what the notes are that are recorded in different agencies. So that's where to keep client case notes that are private, and they should generally be private. Services you will be able to see more of from the history screen. So that's the overview on what the level is. So to assign clients in the program, so each program that a client is active in can have one assigned staff. So if a client is active in 2 programs at your agency, they could have a different assigned staff in each one, or they could have the same staff assigned for both of those programs. Either way works, but you can't have 2 assigned staff in one program enrollment. And you also can only assign staff who are active Clarity users. And that way, because all of the features that are built off of the assigned staff, those are all things that work off of their Clarity user ID. So it has to be current Clarity users who are assigned. So right now, because of the migration, almost all of the clients who are in there have assigned staff of admin. And that's, so if everybody who needs a new assigned staff, you can go into the program enrollment and change it. It also might be the case that as a program manager, you might do the program enrollment, but then when the client starts actually getting case management, they have an assigned case manager, in which case, after you complete the program enrollment, you would go to that assigned staff box and change it from yourself to an assigned case manager. I've certainly seen a number of especially housing programs that are set up that way, where the manager is really the one who's responsible for making sure that the clients are eligible and that the move-ins happen, and then they're handing it off to the case manager, usually on that same move-in day, but oftentimes the manager is still the one who's completing the program entry. So in that change to assigned staff box, there's also this toggle for make program private. And you really only want to use that if you want the client's participation in your program to be private to your agency. And that would keep everything about the client private from all other agencies. So they wouldn't be able to see that the client was in this program. They wouldn't be able to see anything that was attached to this program enrollment. And that includes with coordinated entry. So you really can't make it private, the program enrollment private, if the client needs to coordinate, if you need to coordinate with coordinated entry in this client record. But if it's you know, a youth program, or the client has the client has disclosed some reason that they want to not let anybody know that they are participating in this particular program, you can make the program enrollment private. Does anybody have any questions about changing assigned staff, or what, how to do it and what it might be used, how it would be used for? Okay. So to review case notes for a client, the little, when we, from the client profile page, over on the right-hand side, there is a little print button, and you get to the reports about individual clients from that little printer button. And the reports to use for when you're reviewing case notes are the case notes report and the client service notes report. Those two will let you see all of the content that has been recorded about the client in one page. So if there's something going on with a client and you need to go back and review everything that happened with them in the past month or 6 months or year, you can get that all in one place in a quite readable format. So you would select the date range, and the programs that are going to pop up there are all of the programs that the client has been in, and also in there is not connected to a specific program, and those would be for client level notes that are recorded at your agency. So those would be you know, typically things about clients being, if they needed to be contacted by anybody at your agency who had come up, or they could also be public alerts about the clients would also show up if you select not connected to a specific program or all. Then you would select the date range, and you can use, I would generally, for the notes and services, to either use a web page or a PDF. Web page is a little easier to use when you are just reading through. PDF works a little bit better in terms of if you want to actually print it out. So if you want to actually print out the notes from HMIS and put them into a client file, or to, so in those cases, I would recommend using PDF. These reports aren't great to use for Excel, just because Excel is not a great format for reading a lot of text or for printing out a lot of text. It doesn't work that well for either one of those things, so I would usually use PDF for printing. Also, if you run the service notes, you can select all of the services that are available in any of the programs that the client is enrolled in, or you can print out the services that are the service notes that are just for case management services. This is what the client notes report looks like. When you run it for a date range, it will pop up in the report queue, and you can open it from there. And it will have the information about the client and the detail of the note. So these are some notes from the training site, and this is how that report looks. It looks pretty much the same in PDF or on web page. It's just that the web page, the print button might not work. The print format might not be quite as clear. Okay, does anybody have any questions about those reports, the client level reports for review? All right. So that's all of the things when kind of those are the main things to look at and to change and to review from looking at work with an individual client. Now we're going to talk about some of the reports that you would run to review by staff or by the whole program. So the rest, anytime you're accessing all other reports, you're going to go to reports from the Launchpad. So these, and some of you will have access to Explorer and data analysis, which might include things that the agency manager or our team has created for program management, but there's not really much that's configured there at the moment. So we're just gonna talk about the reports in the report library, which are the ones that Focus has built. So for program management, the 3 sections that are useful are agency management, which include the reports on staff, how staff have been using Clarity, the HUD reports, which include the HUD data quality report, and then the ESG, CAPER, and PATH reports for that you will be running if you have COC funding, an APR, if you have ESG funding, a CAPER, and if you have PATH funding, a PATH report. So those are the reports you would run for submitting your progress reports to the funder. And then lastly is the program-based reports, and these are reports for things that are all recorded within a program. And there are some there are a couple of really useful ones in there to run by program that I strongly recommend using. So in the agency management section, there are 4 reports: user activity, user caseload, staff client data activity, and user client notes hours tracked. Always when you're in the report library, a lot of the reports will have this little more info button, and those will take you to help desk help articles from Bitfocus on what is included in those reports and how to run them. And those are, I've found the Bitfocus help articles very useful, and it can help you see if that's actually the report that you want to use, or if it might not include the things you're looking for. So the user active caseload report you can select one or more staff from all of the staff at your agency to see who is on that staff's active caseload. So you can tell who is there on an agency level. There's another report we'll talk about further down that is more useful for seeing how many people are assigned within how many staff are assigned, how many clients, which clients are working with which staff in a particular program. There's another one that works better for that we'll talk about in a minute. But that will just give overall everything across programs. So if you have staff who are working in multiple programs, you'll probably have to use that report rather than the program-based report. The other ones are user client note hours tracked. So that will be how you can track time and effort recorded in case notes for particular staff members. So as I think I've mentioned at past times, time recorded in case notes and services are tracked separately. So it's a little easier to mostly use one or the other, but the case notes hours are tracked using that report. And then lastly, for audit purposes, the staff client data activity report that will audit all of the HMIS updates and changes and things that are recorded by a staff member, just everything on an audit report. So you can see every change that they've made, every item, every service that they've recorded, how timely it all is. So you can really get into some very detailed information about how your staff are using HMIS using that report. Program-based reports. These are really useful reports for reviewing programs. The general 106 program roster report, that is the report that will show you who the assigned staff is and all of the number of services, notes, and assessments that have been recorded in the program for that by client. So it'll give a big list of clients, who the assigned staff is, and all of how much activity there has been on with that client. So that will give you some great information if you have a few clients who are very needy and their assigned staff are doing a lot of work with them. It will show up there, and you can tell that way. It will also show who for outreach programs, the number of assessments would be the number of current living situation assessments recorded. So you can see how many of those are getting recorded, and if the number of services is provided in the outreach program is similar to the number of assessments, which it should be in outreach because you should be recording current living situation assessments along with contacts there. That's a really good one, and always when you open reports from the report library, you'll be able to drill down and go to the client and see the details. So it's great. General 220, this one is actually an Excel download, but it gives all of the information that is recorded at HUD, entry, annual, and exit. So this is for reviewing kind of the details and validations on what is on the particular program entry and exit for clients. So in particular for housing programs, it has the housing move-in date in addition to the project start date. So you can see if the housing move-in date is recorded correctly, that it's close to but not before the project start date, and that if it's a rapid rehousing program, it's before the project exit. And it also has all of the questions, of course, at project entry for chronic homeless status. So you can really just go in there and look at all of the items to make sure that if there's if you were running a caper and it was showing the number of clients who are chronically homeless, you can go in and drill down and see clients who are or are not counted as chronically homeless using this report, because it'll have all of the disabilities, the disabling condition, and all of the homeless history questions are on there. And again, that one in particular is creating a Excel download. And then there are the HUD reports, and I wanted to take you guys through running an APR or caper, because those are the ones that program managers have to run for funders. And I have run many APRs in my time working in HMIS. And it works a little bit, it's quite straightforward in clarity, but there are a couple of distinctions to make clear about. So the first questions, the COC filter, the COC, the program type, and the program status, all of those, what they will do is limit the number of programs that show up to choose from in the programs to choose that you want to run on it. So you all pretty much can always use agency COC and RI 500, but you can run you can choose the specific program type and only active programs in order to narrow the list of programs to choose from. And then you can run a single program, which is typically going to be the case because usually there's just going to be one program that one program per grant that you'll be running an APR or a caper for. So you would use, in those cases, you would usually run it for one program, but you can also run it on a group of programs. And so you can command or control click to select multiple programs, and you can also select all of the programs of a particular type to run it on as a group. So you could run it on all of the permanent supportive housing programs at your agency, or or a caper on all of the emergency shelters in your agency to get overall outcomes for that program group. And for client filter, apply client location filter, you always want to select no. That is in cases where there might be multiple COCs, but we're all one COC, so you won't be doing any location filtering. Also, funding criteria, you should select not based on funding criteria in almost every case, unless you have some specific complicated project setup that we have not configured yet. You should select not based on funding criteria. You can, for the caper now, there is an option to run a caper based on program funding option, and that's really just there so that we can select to run all ESG CV funded projects. So all projects that have ESG CV funding, for the most part, you'll be choosing, you'll also, for the caper, be choosing not based on federal funding source. Then you'll enter the date range. It's usually a year. For caper, you might do quarterly. And then in terms of the report output selections, the web page version is the one that has all of the drill downs in it. So it's the one that you want to use when you're running the report to review what's in there and make corrections, because that's the one where you'll be able to get from the report directly to client profiles and make changes to things that are recorded in the client profile. PDF is again the choice to use if you want to print things out. Excel is to kind of, if you were going to copy and paste anything out of it, use any of the tables from one of these reports in a report to another funder or something like that. That's when you would use Excel. And then CSV upload is what you would use when you are ready to upload the report into Sage. When the report is ready to open, it will pop up in the report queue. The full report will either open in the browser for web page reports, or it will download it if you run it as PDF, Excel, or CSV. And if you click on any number in a web page report, it will pull up a drill down as a pop-up in a new tab. So this is what the drill down report looks like, and this will be true for pretty much any report that you run. When you click on a number, you'll get the drill down of all of the relevant clients. And it will display all of the information that caused the client to be counted in that number that you clicked on. Sometimes you're clicking on a number and what you actually want is the clients who aren't included. So you have to kind of look at the clients who are included and then see who's not there. Sometimes there isn't the clients who aren't counted. There isn't a number for that sometimes in the report, which is a little annoying, but it's something to work around. And anytime you see a unique ID, that's again going to be another link to open another new tab to that client's profile. and that's the way to kind of drill down and look and make corrections on any of the reports when data is not entered correctly, or the client needs a new annual assessment, or any of those sorts of questions, that any sorts of cleanup that might need to be done. Does anybody have any questions on this, or do they want to see live running one of these reports?
Hey, Tucker, yeah, I would love to see a live report if you could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Please, thank you.
Yes. Is there one in particular that you wanted to see? I'll do. I can do program roster. That's a useful one, I think.
Okay, great.
Okay, so to get to those reports, we're going to go over from the Launchpad to report, and then actually I need. I'm going to switch how I'm sharing this so that the pop-ups come through. So in program-based reports, there is this program roster report. And so anything that has more info, you can see that there might be a short description and there's a link to open the help article about it. And here's the program roster. Right now I'm in coordinated entry, so there's only the coordinated entry. And you can choose clients who were active within a particular range, or who were newly enrolled, or who were exited. So active is usually going to be the most useful one for that. So I'll run it since July 1st. And this one you can do as Excel, but I'm going to run it as a web page so you can see how it has the links in it that are useful, because those links won't work from as an Excel download. And sometimes the pop-up saying that a report is done doesn't come up quite right away. And if you just navigate away from the page back, if you just go back to the search page or the caseloads page, then you'll see that in the report queue, then it changes to show that it's the report is done. So I'm going to open this program roster. And so you can see that, so you can see what kind of comes up here. You can see the client, their unique identifier, date of birth, age at entry, current age, when they were enrolled, when they were exited, how long they were there, if they had a housing move-in date, and then the number of assessments, services, and case notes that are recorded, and who the assigned staff is in that program. So that's why this is, a really straightforward report that shows a lot of the relevant information. If you see, when I bring my mouse over the unique identifier, I can open that link, and it opens to that client profile in a new tab. So I can go right there, and I can see that this client had a couple of coordinated entry event services recorded, and I can go into the program. And we see their program service, their program history, who the assigned staff is here, who the head of household is. So it's very easy to navigate around from there. yeah, this is a much more intuitive way to do things. Yeah, so also I can show you on the APR, how you get to the drill downs are just any of these numbers we can open. So we can see who all of the people with social security numbers. Are. And again, there's, oh, this isn't showing up as a link right now. Usually this is a link. I'm not sure why it isn't right now. But you can always copy, right click and copy a unique identifier and paste it into the search page. And it will take you directly to the client. Anybody else have any other questions about it?
Quick one. So the ones, even the reports that I'm running now, I know there's a lot of migration and a lot of other stuff going on. But the ones that we're running where things are not correct. When we look at, like example, when I did the report for the HUD piece for House of Hope and looked at, and there was a lot of missing information on a lot of clients. When do we put up the red flag and go in and fix that stuff?
I mean, I would, if it's HUD things that are missing, I would go ahead and fix that right away. Some of the things, I mean, a lot of the things, they were issues with Service Point, and then Service Point not necessarily recording things the way that HUD would expect things to be recorded. So if you see things that are in error, you can definitely go ahead and fix those right away, or ask staff to get the correct information if it's not just put into a spot that's not quite right.
Yeah, we're working on that, because like I said, it's case by case and assigning them to the case managers, and then getting the case managers to review each case. You know, a lot of it, there's a lot of race and ethnicity things that weren't carried over, or multiple races was one thing. Income was really not correct on pretty much about like 40 to 50%. I have a good idea why that happened. I have a good idea why that happened.
That was how Service Point was capturing income doesn't map that well to how HUD was doing it. In terms of race and ethnicity, the only things that they said that they'd changed was that if it had been the case that there was data not collected, or client doesn't know and client refused with another race, basically in the migration, they just removed those data not collected, client doesn't know, or client refused. That's kind of the way that those were transformed.
Yeah, we saw that, because it showed up on the way, you know, that was one of the other ones. There's a few other things. I have the list going, but like I said, we're just going case by case and just going
Yep.
in and doing them.
Yep.
And we understand like a lot of the doubling up of clients or that stuff we'll figure out going forward. But we'll go from there.
Yep. All right, I think that's all I have for now, folks. Unless you have any other questions.
Oh, just a side thing, Tucker. We figured out the scan document problem.
Oh, okay.
It was on
What-
our end. It was on our end.
What was it in case it happens to other people?
We had a very color-oriented scanning machine that was state-of-the-art in one of our offices. That was not like an HP or something. It was a Canon state-of-the-art scanner that's in my building. And that was downloading things at like so many ridiculous number of pixels and so forth and so on. So it wasn't able to be transferred. So what we have to do is make it black and white and then do it as a basic upload. And all that stuff has been working perfectly fine. We just figured out it was our end. It was having too nice of an equipment. I think that's the easiest way to say.
Yeah. It was just like the default settings were for like scanning photos.
Right. Yeah. It was the pixels were more than a photo, so it was literally better than a quality of a photo. So it was our fault.
Okay. Yeah. All right. All right. Thanks, everybody. I hope that was clear, and that you're all good to go managing your program.
Thanks, Tucker. Thanks, Jen. Be safe, everybody.
Take care. Tucker, can you stop the recording?